Hey, I'm Najella.
And I'm in Gaza.
And we're a couple from Brooklyn, New York, but we've been living abroad for 5 years now, in Asia, Latin America, and Europe.
And today we're going to discuss our story right when we land in Koh Phangan.
We're going to discuss the ups and downs and challenges that we experienced when we first got to Koh Phangan.
Okay, so for today's first question, what were your first impressions of Koh Phangan?
So I remember pulling up to the shore of Koh Phangan. We were both waiting and standing there. Like, you can see the big flag in front of us.
Yeah.
And we're pulling up to the water. And I remember this feeling of like, wow, I'm really going to live on a small island. You have that sense that like you're going to be isolated, or you just see it. It's an island and there's just water all around it. It's just like everything seems perfectly placed in a way that you would see in a movie about like a small deserted island somewhere.
Yeah.
Some stores have like a lot of wooden features, or it's just perfectly tattered.
Yeah.
The right signage.
Yeah.
Or some roads are paved and some roads have more dirt. The palm trees swinging. It's very atmospheric.
Yeah.
But you can't believe that you're in this place, because I've never been to Thailand and I dreamed about going. It's interesting, you're almost transplanted into this environment that you only see on TV, but you're in it.
Or like you transplanted like into your thoughts.
Yeah.
Kinda. That's a good point that you bring up about it feeling small, because when you're approaching an island, you have the perspective that you can kind of see the whole thing or conquer the whole thing, but it definitely was like way more massive than we imagined.
It was bigger, yeah. The island felt bigger. A lot of tourists as well were just getting there too.
Yeah.
Also, Koh Phangan felt very hippie. I didn't expect that. When we first got to Street to New, it was like everyone was wearing a little bit of clothing.
Yeah, like no shirts.
Yeah, like tattered.
Like linens,
like
hair
linen,
out, like
beach blonde
super
type
zen.
thing.
We kind of knew, because we were like really excited about going to Sutanu or Koh Phangan in general, because it was a vegan food haven and there was going to be a ton of like raw, organic, natural food.
Consciousness.
Yeah, but it was like a bit over the top when we got there. That was our first impression.
It was very, very, it was laid on thick. We saw a couple of European people walking completely barefoot in the street with their feet completely dirty. So that was new. We were like, whoa.
Like, wear your shoes, homie.
Yeah.
I remember when we landed in Koh Phangan, the first thing we had to do was find a motorbike. And we had to rent a motorbike, and our goal was to get to the Sritanu 7-Eleven. And we were supposed to meet my friend Tamir. We went to 3 different motorbike rental places. It wasn't really working out. And this guy just saw us kind of lost and needing help with all these luggages.
Like a puppy, probably.
And there was no way we were going to be able to carry like these big luggages on a motorcycle. And we didn't really know what we were doing. We got saved. This Australian dude we met basically came up to us and asked us if we needed a ride. He was like, where do you guys need to head? We were like, we're going to Sritanu, the 7-Eleven. He's like, I'm going there as well. I live there. And he took us there. So that was a great first experience of like, being all over the place, needing help, and somebody coming to save us. Welcome to Koh Phangan. Welcome! And interestingly enough, we would see that same guy in the gym for like the next year or two. He was super cool. He would always work out. He was one of the most friendly people that we met on the island. We'll never forget that moment.
No.
I remember getting to Sritanu and being at the 7-Eleven. It felt like we were on a movie set. Everything was really rustic. Everything was there, but not there. It was just one of those like out-of-body experiences that you have when you're somewhere that you saw online or that you pictured, but when you're actually there, it like feels like you're in the movie set. So.
Yeah. Question number 2, how was it settling in to Koh Phangan?
I mentioned in the previous episode that Tamir is the reason why I decided to go to Koh Phangan much earlier than we planned, which was originally Najee's birthday in February of 2020. So when we got there, he brought us to his apartment. We got a chance to hang out. He gave us champadak, or jackfruit. We had like this big, beautiful, fresh jackfruit.
That was my first time having jackfruit. Yours too, right?
Yeah, I don't think I had jackfruit before. The taste and the smell was familiar. It kind of smelled like juicy fruit. Like
yeah,
gum.
it does. It smells like gum.
It's like Laffy Taffy.
That's what
or earheads.
But it was really nice having that. That was a fun experience. And obviously we needed accommodations for our first night. So we knew that we weren't going to find a long-term situation right away. So
we had to like walk around and visit more places.
Yeah, and like get a feel, like where do we actually want to live? So the first place that we stayed was Loifa Resort. It wasn't too far from where he lived in Sritanu. It was near another place called Orion, but it was at the top of this hill. And it was really nice. There was a pool there. We had like a room that was like poolside.
My first impressions too of Loifa, when we asked Tamir, we were like, we want to stay at the best hotel on the island.
Yeah, yeah.
I think he was like...
That's a good point, because we were feeling a little bit like,
Yeah, it was like different. Things were rustic, not underdeveloped, but it was small town islandy feel.
Yeah.
Kind of how I thought it would feel driving from Bangkok to Koh Phangan. It wasn't that yet, but when we got to Koh Phangan, it was like, oh, I'm on an island. Anyway, so we asked him, we were like, we want the best hotel. We wanted to be comfortable while we settled in.
For the first couple nights.
Emotionally, we would be hard. We needed like AC. Like, we just wanted everything to be really comfortable.
Yeah.
So he recommended Loifa. So when we went, our expectations were like, well, if this is the best place on the island, like it must be really, really nice. Like it's gonna be like
through the roof.
modern,
it's gonna be
5-star. When we got there, it didn't fit that expectation. So that was a little uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It was like a typical hotel you would see like in a beachy place, right? Like it reminded me of a place I stayed in to Grill. A lot of wood, like beige walls.
Also, I think one of the things that impacted our impression was that we got there at night, and it was far more beautiful in the morning. So
it was, yeah. But it was a clean place, so it was fine.
Yeah. As I mentioned, after we got settled in the hotel, we had to go get motorcycles, and we went to Alm's motorcycle place. So the first motorcycle place we went to, we wound up staying there for the duration. She like rented our car to us, both motorcycles.
She became like family.
Yeah,
friends.
she was so close.
We got close with her.
Yeah, she was dope. Alm was incredible. She gave us like a discount on the bikes. I do remember that. We were gonna get 2 motorbikes, and we were like, actually, let's just get one, because it was a lot more challenging to ride than it looks like in the videos. You would think it's like a simple scooter, but they had like a lot of acceleration, a lot of torque. It was a bit dangerous because you have to kind of know how to balance it to get started.
The island is sandy.
The sand was crazy. You could slip and fall off the motorbike really easily. So you had to be careful about braking, about corners, all the dusty roads and stuff. The motorcycle and motorbike situation, being the main mode of transportation, was a lot more overwhelming initially. We both didn't want the burden of having to ride separately. So I had to always lug Najee around until she got comfortable riding the motorcycle.
Which is heavy.
It's a lot more heavy than it looks.
It's heavy riding. It's heavy like if you're the main driver driving someone else. But no one talks about that.
Because you get there and you see kids on motorcycles.
Yeah, you do.
Everyone's like, you know, making it look all easy.
Past you.
And like, it's definitely not the safest. You have to take precautions. It's not as safe as it appears.
It's a learning curve.
It's a learning curve. Little bark. Come on. You can get on the back for a little bit.
Must be straight.
Yeah, I thought it was black. I also remember the pressure of trying to find a gym. As I mentioned before, I had just lost a ton of weight. I was ready to like maintain my goals, find raw food, eat raw, go to the gym, exercise. And I was incredibly excited about just hitting it and getting straight to it. And that was challenging. The photos that I saw online and what I saw in person was like, whoa, it was kind of a big disconnect.
Yeah.
I think coming from the States, being used to like having gyms that have all the things that you need, I already know that the expectation was a little bit lowered, but I was a bit disappointed with like just the equipment. Most of the gyms were outdoors. I wasn't super comfortable or excited about going to work out. I also think a big challenge was that the part of the island where we lived and where I wanted to go to the gym was probably like a 15 or 20 minute bike ride. So
riding a motorbike to this gym was a challenge because a motorbike was stressful for you.
Yeah.
So having to like do a 15-minute motorbike ride to the gym was not something you were always looking forward to.
Yeah, for sure.
You had to get used to that. And you wanted to start the gym right away.
Yeah, I wanted to hit it. Getting my routine in order is definitely what I try to do first. But the gym thing was really challenging.
Yeah.
But I tried a few gyms out. I eventually settled on one that was closer to the main town. And oh my God, we should bring up your ear infection. Remember when you had...
Yes. If you remember from episode 4, I was going in the pool jumping like a big kid, literally like jumping and getting out. And I'm never very the best at getting water in my ears. I just never learned that skill set, or my ear canals just formed weird. But long story short, I was starting to get headaches and I knew something was wrong in my brain, and I had a horrible ear infection.
In my brain.
And yeah, something was going on. I went to the doctor there, and it was a really good experience. That was our first experience going to a hospital. It was Best Western, which caters to Westerners. It's called Best Western. Everyone spoke English there.
Service was incredible.
It was
super
nice.
Clean.
The doctor was wonderful.
Yeah.
He explained that, you have an infection here and here. He gave me antibiotics.
He also gave like a little lesson with like a diagram and explaining the inner ear canal. I do remember that.
So that was a good experience, feeling like, oh, if I get sick here or if something goes wrong, what do I do? Where can I go? And that was in the main town, so it wasn't too far from Street to New.
We were also able to get you triaged, you saw a physician,
That's a good point.
And you also got your medication right on site.
Right, like it was
everything was so cheap.
It was so easy.
Yeah, and it was really fast.
It was easy.
That was a great experience with the doctors.
Access to medical care was easy there.
And affordable.
Told you something was wrong with me. I knew it.
And when a Gaza first gets to a new place, his 2 main thing is grocery store and gym. And I appreciate that because I will piggyback on and I'm like, great, this is where we're food shopping. Wonderful. You've gone through all the places. This is the best place for price, produce, quality.
Yeah.
And then gym, I go to gym visits with him, but sometimes he goes alone to gym visits. And he picks a gym as well. I'm like, fantastic. My thing is really settling into like some sort of a creativity routine or grounding routine. So that was my challenge when I first got there and settling in, was figuring out, okay, where's my little nook in our room where I can journal? And at that point, I was dealing with grief because my father died not even a year ago. So I was in the midst of sketching and drawing a lot and writing this like picture book. And I needed to continue that practice when I was in Thailand.
Yeah.
So that was something that I did every day, was like try to draw on the porch, or I would go to the beach and draw, listen to my music. Walking was really important to me because right when I left Brooklyn, I was walking Prospect Park like every day, sometimes twice a day.
Yeah.
And I wasn't able to emulate that in Koh Phangan. I couldn't like go on long walks necessarily because stray dogs, which is another story.
Oh my gosh.
So I spent a lot of time in the house settling in for the first few weeks, and I slowly would venture out and feel safe.
Yeah.
Go with him to the store or go with him to the gym. And next thing that we did to get acclimated was to address our looks. I mean, I had a routine of getting my hair shaped up at the Dominican spot. Gaza had a routine of getting his shape up there too.
And getting my hair braided by my sister.
His hair braided by his sister. So at a certain point, I needed to get my hair cut again. And I don't think we had a razor at that point.
No, we didn't.
We didn't bring one.
It wasn't that we didn't bring one. We brought one, but the outlets.
Oh, right.
So we used a converter, but I think something with the
voltage.
Amps of voltage, it would be like, it would go crazy.
Yeah. So we didn't have, he couldn't buzz me up himself. We found someone. I used a Facebook group. I found Tip.
Yeah, Tip.
She's amazing. And yeah, that was my hairstylist the whole time on Koh Phangan. I dyed my hair with her the first month I was there. I think the first color I dyed it was a brown.
Brown or blonde?
Brown or blonde, one of them. I'm not really sure. But
I know you also got red.
I did get red at one point.
And I dyed my hair blonde too.
He dyed his hair blonde. He was a beach blonde.
Yeah.
So that was nice and settling in and kind of getting comfortable. And that was slowly us forming our community too, of people that we would go to.
Yeah, she was nice. Okay, so let's get into question number 3. What were your first accommodations?
This is a very important part because accommodations is everything into settling in and going to a new place.
Yeah.
Where you're staying, do you feel comfortable there? What's it like? And it greatly impacts your time in a place if your accommodations aren't what you expected, or you don't feel comfortable there.
So after we stayed at Loifa, we stayed there probably for 3 or 4 nights, and we were right on it trying to find someone to help us find a living space. And we wound up finding a place that was like right around the corner. It was called Moon Villa. Remember? Yeah. So we moved into Moon Villa. It was this beautiful studio type setup with like a bathroom, a big king size bed, floor to ceiling windows. We had the porch overlooking the water. We could see like the islands from Antang National Park in the distance.
And our bungalow was newly built, I believe.
Yeah, it was like the newest bungalow. So they basically started at the bottom of this hill and they built the bungalows on the way up. So ours had just opened up. It was like brand new. It was beautiful. It was really nice. It was definitely the nicest place I ever stayed in.
It felt like a resort.
It also felt like a bungalow in the hills, and it was beautiful landscaping. We also had access to the water, so there were these steps that we
were
would take.
right on the shore.
Yeah, we were right on the
Literally,
shore.
we had steps that went down to the cliff edge, the beach, and you can get in the water and start swimming and do whatever.
It was so nice. It was so beautiful. We also had a hammock on our porch.
We had a hammock on our porch. We had a great porch.
Yeah, the dinner table.
We ate outside a lot.
Yeah.
It was really nice.
Oh my God. Also, one of the reasons we chose that place was because it was still low season. High season hadn't started at the time. And at the moment, we didn't know how expensive
prices were going
to get. But it was really expensive. Yeah. The month that we stayed there, or the month or 2 that we stayed there, was super pricey. And it was going to only just go up as high season started.
So we had to get out of it. And I think the challenges that we did have with this place, which influenced our next accommodation, was the fact that we knew it wouldn't be long term because it was so expensive.
Yeah.
And even though it was beautiful, it wasn't like
functional.
It wasn't functional in certain ways. Like we were in one room. Our kitchen was like outside of our bedside. It was detached from the living space.
Yeah, we had to leave the living space to go to the kitchen.
Also, because it was a new build, I think there were like certain construction issues that they didn't know, that they would come in and try to resolve it. But like the toilet leaked one time.
We were freaking out, you know, like trying to make sure that everything was okay. We're like, this is supposed to be brand new. So that was tough dealing with that. But also the space was a major issue. Like Najee said, she needed a space to kind of feel enclosed and to work on her creative stuff. So I always felt like that was a challenge, that we didn't really have our own personal private space. It was just like this new place, and then we're just like, hey, hello,
hi,
all day, right in this room with like a huge floor to ceiling, you know, glass. 2, 3, 4, all the pillows, and you pissed, right?
Leave me alone, babe. Seriously.
Because she got really bad service on the phone.
Stop. I'm not upset. I'm not upset. Just need a second. You're not.
You okay?
No, you always overdo it.
You seem really angry. But behind you there's water, but right here I see anger.
Over time, I even started to not like seeing the view.
Yeah.
It was almost like I felt like I was always swimming because it was literally...
It's so expansive.
75% of our view was just water.
I remember when I was a kid, if I looked at the sky too much, or if I looked at the solar system too much, I wouldn't feel grounded, or it kind of would make me feel like I was floating.
Yeah.
And having
That's
that much...
such a good point.
Yeah, right? And having that much view of the sea and just open water all day, it's a lot.
Yeah, it's so weird,
It's a lot
too.
for the little human brain.
It sounds like a complaint. Like, you don't really want to tell the truth that, like, you don't love floor-to-ceiling windows. For, like, regulation of heat, AC has to be blasting if you want the windows to be fully open.
That was the thing, too. Controlling the heat when most of the house is glass.
Yeah.
That's where we learned, like, glass, floor-to-ceiling windows, they spend so much money in central air. You have to close the curtains all day and it defeats the purpose of having floor-to-ceiling windows.
The insulation is poor. Also, we did love having so much fruit on the porch. Being in our tropical oasis.
We ate outside all the time.
We had papaya. We prepare our dinners, our salads. It was really
outside.
nice. But the kitchen really wasn't functional. There was like an electric stove, a simple pot set. And that was one of the challenges going into Thailand as a whole was most people gave guidance in Thailand based off short trips or based off not really trying to be comfortable. And we like moved here. We have all our stuff. This is supposed to be our home. So we had a small 2-seat couch, but there was no place for us to kick our legs up. There was no real private places for Nayela to work on her art and creativity. The kitchen, we had a smaller fridge than we're used to, like a European-sized fridge. So we couldn't really do shopping like once a week. We had to shop like every other day. The sink was small. The kitchen also didn't have like AC. We had to be really conscious of bugs and like leaving out things that were sticky. So our habits had to change and we had to sort of like surrender to the environment and the new surrounding that we were in.
I wanted to build on that point. There's different types of travelers that go to Thailand. So you kind of need to make sure who you're getting advice from and if they fit your lifestyle. There's people who go to Thailand to live very, very simple because they feel guilt or they want like a simple way of life. So some of the huts there or the bungalows are
extremely minimal.
Like very minimal. There's nothing. It's just wood and you sleep in there and that's all you have.
And it's open. There's no walls.
They don't have walls. They want to be exposed to the elements. So I'm not going to get advice from someone like that because I don't want to live like that in Thailand. Then you have people who are very long term, like who are retirees. And they really genuinely like build their own house, I find.
And they have a lot of wealth.
They have a lot of money.
So,
And then you have the short-term backpack travelers, which is like the hostel type living, or maybe short-term stays like what we were doing, but we needed something that
more
was
comfortable.
Different. Next question is, how was the food in Phangan?
The first thing that stood out to me was how many food stalls there were. Food trucks, there was people eating outside on the street. I feel like if you want to eat in Phangan or eat in Thailand in general, you can find food at any time. It's just always available. I think that was really exciting. The cost, obviously, because the cost was a huge motivator for me. Being able to eat a full meal for like $1.50 or like $2 was incredible. If you spent $5, you're like at a buffet. But I think for me, one of the big challenges was everything looked better than it tasted.
Specifically the street food.
Yeah, specifically the street food. Like something will look really enticing or really exciting and I would be like, this doesn't really feel like the highest quality. And exploring and trying new food over the first few weeks, we sort of ran into MSG poisoning. Oh my gosh. So I think as we became more aware, we would look at people cook and what's that white powder going in? So we both had this meal. I think it was like a fried fish meal or something like that.
Yep, I can see the place now.
Oh my gosh. I was bloated. I swelled up. So I
got hives, which we don't get.
She got hives. My whole skin swelled up. It was almost like I had like an edema. I would press my leg and I would literally see like my skin come back slowly.
We would notice this right after we ate. So we made the connection and we asked some like Thai people that we were getting close with our other expats and they were like, oh, that's MSG.
Yeah, you guys have like an MSG sensitivity.
And you have to tell them not to put it. So we had it in our phone. Eventually we learned this. It took like a lot of pain and suffering. We had like no MSG. We had a sign and we would show to them. They'll be like, oh, okay. And then they would be like, a little bit. I'm like, no, please don't put it because it makes me really sick. And that was better, but it was horrible at the beginning.
Yeah, that was tough.
So another thing is food reviews. When I'm in New York City or traveling in general, I rely heavily on word of mouth, but also food reviews. Like Yelp, Google Maps.
You're the review queen.
Yeah. So on Google, I would go to a place that had 5 stars. Like most places on Phangan has 5 stars.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, all the food's fantastic.
Amazing comments.
Crazy. Like, I've never had a masaman that's so good. I've never had a pad thai. I'm like, wow, I'm going to go to all these places. And I noticed that all of the reviews weren't accurate for my taste buds. Like I would go and I would be so disappointed. I'm like, this is like a 2.
We had to like figure this out. Like,
it took time because I didn't want to believe that like all the reviews could be wrong. I'm like, I'm clearly the problem. But I think it's more so that you have to look at who's giving the reviews. Many of the people who give reviews, especially in Koh Phangan, are from places where they don't season the food like they do in Thailand. So anything tastes so amazing. It's like, oh my God, flavors. But for us, because we're from like New York City, Caribbean, Latino descent, Thai food is just seasoned well food, curries, spices. So the food reviews did not correlate with the quality of the food in my opinion. And that was hard until we found this place. I don't remember. How do we find it?
Varavana.
Because in Gaza, would always be on the motorbike, mapping out in his head the island. And he saw this amazing hotel, and he's like, we have to go back and check out what this place is. It was nothing like that on the island at that point. A huge cement building. You can see in the horizon. It was like so modern and incredible, like out of Architectural Digest.
Yeah, it was really
so
nice.
We go, and they're like, oh, it's a hotel and a restaurant. We were like, restaurant?
Yeah, let's try the restaurant.
it.
And the food was crazy.
The food was the best. We actually got close with the chef. We got close with the owner.
The owner she was really
would
cool.
come out and hug us. Yeah, she was like a boss lady. So she wasn't like super emotional, but she was really sweet.
She was friendly.
And they would like cook special things for us. But the food was really good there. And
The
we
food
went there
was
often.
delicious. That was our spot though.
Yeah,
that became our spot. Oh, and then the pool. They had
pool.
this really nice rooftop pool. What do you call it? Gravity edge?
Infinity edge.
It had an infinity edge pool. And it had this really nice sea view. It was beautiful. I love that pool.
And we became friends with one of the bartenders there.
Dude, yeah, the Russian dude, right? Yeah.
Something like that. About food, I noticed that food spots that tourists would go to was much less quality than where Thai people went themselves.
Yeah.
And when we had food with Thai families, we found it much better quality.
Much
and it
more.
was very different than what you eat in restaurants, like where tourists would go.
Yeah.
So off the beaten path, I think, perhaps is better in Thailand.
And on the flip side of that, I did find that if we went to eat in a place that we wouldn't normally think a great restaurant would be, like a hotel or like a shopping mall, just in my overall experience in Thailand, I found that the food was like ridiculous.
Yeah,
it
like
was
the hotel
A1.
food would be really good.
Yeah, especially randomly like shopping mall restaurants.
Yeah, it was like,
Yeah,
wow.
especially in Bangkok and Chiang Mai, it was weird.
Our last question is, what are some memorable moments? One each.
Okay, my memorable moment was getting into the water. So I had this incredible experience the first time I got into water. It was this deep spiritual experience. I remember feeling my father's presence. It was so dope. My first time in the water in Thailand. And that's the crib up there. Love you, Pops. Hold it down. Thanks for holding it down, Mr. Alexis. But there was this time I went down early in the morning. I'm trying to, get a little routine. I finished meditating at the front porch. The sun's coming out. I dip down into the water and I'm walking around and I get up to about my neck and I'm just relaxing and I look to my right and I see this big jellyfish and I'm like, oh my gosh, okay. Let me move slowly to make sure it doesn't like create a wave so that the jellyfish comes towards me. I look to the left. There's another jellyfish. Then I take a second, I like pause. All of a sudden, like a movie, there were jellyfish literally all surrounding me. And I was like, oh my God, I'm about to die. Besides seeing like dead jellyfish in Coney Island or like little jellyfish here and there, I've never been in a situation like that. I was freaking out.
Sidebar, he was terrified because we had a friend who kept scaring us with box jellyfish
Oh my
stories
gosh.
and people dying on the island.
And I was so excited to get in the water.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, these box jellyfish stories were terrible. But back to where I'm at, surrounded by all these jellyfish, and I had to like slowly mosey my way out the water. It was terrible. That was terrifying. And I got out the water and walked down to another beach and was trying to see what was going on. Like, why are all these jellyfish here? And there was another resort really close by, and there were these people leaving a class, like some sort of yoga class or something. And I saw them picking up the jellyfish. So luckily, these jellyfish were like harmless. And like I picked one up like a little kid, like, yeah, it's okay. The Thai guy helped me pick it up with like a stick, and then I grabbed it. So no big deal. No box jellyfish stories. That was my memorable moment.
Fine.
What about you?
My memorable moment is, this is probably week 2 or week 3. We had just got there.
Yeah.
And in Gaza, of course, his adventure itself, he was like, come on, let's get on the motorbike and go somewhere. And he wanted to go to a part of the island we hadn't gone before. I think it was Hat Yao, where Bubba's was. He wanted to go more up the coast, and we see this place that says Secret Beach or something like that. We're like, what's Secret Beach? And we're like, okay, whatever. It's probably, I don't know, like a tourist spot. And we pull over, and it's like a really deep decline, but you have to pull over, then you walk down a little bit to the beach. It was the most incredible thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, it was so nice.
It's so dramatic.
It was sunset, right?
It was sunset hour.
Oh yeah, and we walked through all
and
those,
it feels like a secret. It's like I don't know who found it, like, and who put the sign there, but thank you. And it slowly became really, really overcrowded as time went on.
High season.
When we lived there during high season, but it was just, I remember sitting there on that night, the first sunset we had, and I was like, I'm so grateful to be here. I feel so lucky, so blessed. I'm in paradise.
Yeah.
Paradise. Yeah.
Paradise. So thanks for joining us for this episode. We'll see you in the next one. Peace out.
Bye.
Peace. Come on, helicopter. Helicopter. Helicopter.
What song is that?
I don't know, something from Instagram. Helicopter.
Helicopter.
Helicopter. Helicopter.